Hey everyone, it's Tom Kradza, and this is the 100th episode of the Your Life, Your Term show. And for this episode, we got a bunch of the coaches here together, and not everybody was around to be able to pull this off. When we're booking something like this with as big as the team has gotten, we can't get everybody in one room at the same time. It's just near impossible. But we've got a chunk of the coaches here at Rockstar that work with investors together in the boardroom. We went around and we just had a little bit of fun with it. We asked everybody to share a few stories on real estate. You'll hear, and that's it. You'll get to hear some of the coaches here at Rockstar that maybe you've never heard from before. Some are shyer than others. Some are very outgoing. And you'll see what I mean in a second. And if there's someone you know here at Rockstar that you didn't hear on this episode, it's because they just weren't around. They were working with an investor. They were on vacation for whatever reason. They just couldn't be here. And you should know that we have right now about 14 full-time coaches that work with investors on a full-time basis, but the entire group here at Rockstar is much larger than that. We have about 50 people here at Rockstar now. So this has really been something that we never expected to grow as big as it has grown. And we're very thankful and grateful for the entire team. Nick and I both quit our jobs to start this, and we were literally by ourselves. I mean, the first office that we rented out, that we had enough money to rent out, was in another brokerage that we were out of, a Keller Williams brokerage, and we had enough money to rent out their closet, which they allowed us to rent out, and that was our first office. So from there we went into Burlington in our own office space. We rented some executive suites out there, and a lot of members know us from those Burlington offices. And then eventually we came back to Oakville into the offices that we are in now, and later this year we will move into our new office space, which we have purchased. So we've purchased a couple commercial units, brand new. It's being built here in Oakville, and we've purchased a couple of units in that development that they've built. It's all kind of professional services on the ground floor there. It's really nice, kind of modern new offices inside. I think is going to be really beautiful, much nicer than we've ever had before. And we're really excited about it. So this has been quite the journey, going from quitting our jobs, having the support of both our wives to go through this. For those of you who don't know, I quit my job with a mortgage on my family house, a 4-year-old son and a 10-month-old daughter. So I'm forever grateful to Carol for supporting me through that whole journey. And then now coming to this point where we're doing 100 episodes and sharing all this real estate information that we're able to share, and having a team where we're able to share that with us to everyone else is really, really powerful. So we're just super grateful. You know, this is living life on my terms. So I'm just thankful. And I know Nick feels the same. Nick's just not here right now because he's over in Croatia, truly living life on his terms, having some fun with the family. And I'm going to be joining him soon. So with that, we will leave it there, and let's get on with the 100th episode of the Your Life, Your Term show.
Are you ready to live life on your terms? Is it time to take charge? Real estate, business building, the economy, health and nutrition, and more. It's the Your Life, Your Term show with Tom and Nick Kradza. Are you ready? Let's go.
So welcome. This is the 100th podcast, and the idea is that we're going to go in a circle here, and there's a bunch of people. Everyone just got so quiet. We're going to go in a circle here, and there's a bunch of Rockstar coaches in the room who work with a ton of investors, and we're going to share one thing we like about real estate, one thing we hate or don't like about real estate, and then a quick story about real estate. And we're going to go in a circle, and you can't repeat what this person before you said. So Andrew, Nick, Mike, you guys at the end. I'll go right at the very end. So you just can't say whatever someone else shared. Cool. So in this room are people who've probably helped investors buy over $1 billion, not probably, have helped investors buy over $1 billion in real estate, created millions of dollars in monthly rental income for investors right across Ontario. So with that, we will have Mark Greenidge who lead us off. And I can share a quick story about Mark Greenidge. I've known him since grade 1. With the first day of school, when they opened the door to let him in, his dad and him were at the door there to let him in. Like, I guess they were guarding grade 1. But they opened the door. We were already in class. I don't know why you came in like the middle of the day, and you were at the door just bawling and crying. And I thought, oh my gosh, who's this guy crying in grade 1? And then
he need more chair. Are we gonna make everyone stand for the hour?
Yeah, we're just gonna make everybody stand.
Okay, great.
But so Mark, one thing you like about real estate, one thing you don't like, and a story.
Well, I like how you started with back in grade 1. So actually, I will piggyback on that and say that when growing up, two of my favorite games were Connect Four and Monopoly, and I feel like what we're doing here is we're pretty much playing our own version of Monopoly, helping investors buy greenhouses. Eventually, hopefully, they turn those greenhouses into, red houses or hotels.
Stop moving the mic around. Hold it at your mouth.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, I'm not used to holding a mic, man.
I see it swinging around.
I don't do this too often. I'm sorry. There we go. Two hands. Yeah. So in terms of
You played Monopoly in grade 1? You were advanced.
I played pretty young. Yeah, Connect Four and Monopoly. Yes.
Grade 1.
So that's one thing you like. I got to keep this going. And one thing you don't. One thing you don't like.
One thing I don't like. I think if my wife was here, she would say that.
I thought he was going to say my wife.
No. She's still in the good books. She's still in the good books. She'd probably say, missing out on family events, social gatherings on the weekends.
And why you're missing out? Because you're dealing with crap.
Yeah, occasionally, we'll have to do work-related stuff. So, yeah, that'd be the only negative thing I'd say in terms of.
And one of your favorite real estate stories, positive or negative?
I'm going to go way back in time when I first started. One of my first investors, when they were, all investors that we work with, they have that anxiety about showing that first property. For this one, for whatever reason, their anxiety was at the next level. It felt like they were actually petrified of going through this process. So much so that they begged me to come out to the property. And I said, okay, listen, what I'll do is I'll come to the property, but I'm going to come before you actually do the showing. All right? And then, but once it's time to start, you guys are on your own. And I said, okay, fine. Going up to the showing, I was shocked. They had not just the directional signs, but they had, orange pylons, they had balloons leading up to the property. I thought, hold on, these aren't the same people that I thought were so anxious and petrified. And I got there and we did some role playing and, I left them and they had an awesome showing. They had, I think they had a few applications that day. They would change their Kijiji ad every week. Like from what I saw at the beginning to how they changed over time, it was a good example of fear where, we have these false events appearing real. And that's what was going through their mind. And they just totally transformed themselves and turned into like marketing wizards. And they end up filling the property within 2 or 3 weeks. And
real estate makes you grow, whether you want it to or not. It makes you grow as a person. So cool. Awesome. Thank you, Mark Greenidge. Okay, JP Gulbis is up next. So JP, one thing you like you can't say anything Mark said, so you can't say you like Monopoly. You can't positive, negative, and a story.
Yeah, I mean, I think the kind of the core to all this is to give people choices, and I think that obviously that has to stem with the financial benefits of it. I mean, we're not doing this for just fun, obviously. So
you're trying to figure out a nice way to say the money.
Yeah. I mean, look, it is what it is, but obviously then it goes way beyond that. So it's nice to see beginner investors, I guess, get that first property and then see that sort of aha moment once they get over that first hurdle, and then like all of a sudden they're like, oh, all right, like, and they really want to do more. So that's really nice. And of course, all of us have been affected by that, and then all of us have also seen the financial, benefits of investing ourselves. So that would be the positive.
You just gave everyone a really hard time because you just basically said, I like the financial benefits. So now everybody going after you can't say anything about the financial benefits.
But then there's also challenges with it. Big challenges sometimes. Sometimes it goes real smooth. Sometimes it doesn't. But I think the most frustrating part, which everyone can attest to, is just getting to the point where you can actually acquire property. So from a financing perspective, it's a nightmare for, I would say on average for most people, it's probably the biggest thing. And then once they own it, it's not so bad.
So dealing with the bank sucks.
Yeah, that part sucks. But you know what? That's a positive and a negative, because a lot of people will just they'll just give up. Investing in real estate isn't going to be for everyone, and that's probably a good thing for those who have the stomach to keep going. So, story. Man, honestly, when I started and Mike was my coach, I'm
you
looking
have a lot
at Mike.
Of stories. I don't know what you're about to share.
No, it's probably a story many people have heard, but honestly, having gone through that on my first rental property was having a deal not close on time because funds were frozen in an account with one of my partners, and then getting insurance pulled, and then once we finally closed a week later, then having a suicide. So having all of these things.
Back up the suicide comment
right.
there, just
Like how
like
you
one
glanced
second.
over that, eh?
So yeah, you just explain that.
A vacant house. We'd had it for about a week. We went up there to show it, how all these families lined up. We get there, and there's a homeless person in the house. And while we were there, unfortunately, he committed suicide. So that was a pretty big challenge. But having gone through all that, honestly, it really prepared me for working with investors after that. Because with all that, I mean, gosh, we got through all that, and then
as
you can
sad
do it.
and horrible that experience
Yeah.
was, which is very sad and totally horrible. It strengthened you because you had to deal with the situation. You
Totally.
had to deal with the police
Yeah.
showing up. You had to deal because you're nervous that you just have a vacant property. Now you just went from dealing with a vacant property to having a major scene inside the house.
It was the stigma we were most worried about on how to deal with that. But
so you rented it out okay afterwards?
yeah, 2 weeks later it was full. Yeah, we'd rented it. Yeah, and it just so happened that it was the people didn't care. We disclosed it. There's no problem. But anyway, so having gone through that, it just made any other problem that someone's going to approach me with not a big deal.
Yeah,
so that's it.
Cool. Thanks, JP. Erica Spencer is up next. So Erica, something you like, something you don't like in a story.
So I think something I like about real estate is that it's always changing. So I get bored with things that are always the same. My previous career was as a biologist, and it was always the same thing. So with real estate as an investor and as a coach, just helping people through different challenges and buying different properties. And I have members right now that I was just telling Leslie, are kind of shopping in all different markets for all different things. And it's like, you need to focus, but at the beginning it's exciting because you have so many options at your fingertips and you can go in any direction. And I always say that as long as it makes sense, right? So it's like nice houses on nice streets, but that also is like whatever deal makes sense, as long as there's cash flow, as long as there's something that kind of benefits later. So you never really know what you're going to get, right? It's always something new.
Something you hate.
I always think about Nick's comment to that member event with he who deals with the most shit wins, right? So it's like however many properties we or our investors have in their portfolio, it's 20 roofs, it's 20 leaky basements, it's multiplied by a factor of your success. But also if shit goes south, it goes south in a big way, right? When we had a rainy spring 2 years ago, it's like how many wet basements did we have all at the same time? Right? So it's like the multiplication factor can either be awesome or it could be really bad.
So wait, what did Mark say was his negative thing he didn't like?
What my wife.
Oh, your wife. You're missing family events because of real estate. Your negative thing, JP, was
I think the
financing. The
Yeah.
financing.
Yeah.
And now yours was when shit goes south, it can go south in a big way. Okay, I'm trying to keep track so that we don't repeat ourselves because we're
like 14
stepping
people
over
here.
each other just a little bit here. So the story, Erica.
Oh, I've been standing here trying to think of a good story, and I don't have.
You have so many good stories. Just pick one
But
of
they're
yours.
all just like little stories, and I know like it's supposed
Pick
to
then
be.
a pot, like, because I think so far we're sharing negative stories. You can pick. Is there someone you've helped that comes to mind?
Yeah, of course, but nothing that's like epic. I
Okay,
mean,
give us the negative epic story.
Not negative. So so JP told a story about when Mike was his coach, so I have a story about that too. And we were doing a rent-to-own showing, and we're in communication with Mike, and it was like, okay, Mike, if you don't hear from us in the next 2 hours, we're following these people who we just met to their house in Niagara Falls, and we don't know them, and they're a little bit odd, and he had investors in the car, and we were going to show properties, and we were on speaker, and it was just kind of nuts. But so we ended up at this property that was not beautiful and was not, my daughter didn't want to stand on the floor. It was, so dirty and gross. And we ended up buying it because it was a great price. And then the end of the story was beautiful because these people were like very great people. We helped them. They moved into our rent to own. They put down all the proceeds of their sale into the rent to own, but they were so helpful and were like praising the Lord, like actually, because they could live across the street from their in-laws, and their family was like, it turned out to be a great story. But we could have been murdered in that basement, and Mike kind of knew where we
and
were,
Mike
but not
would be
really.
the only person who knew where
and
you
he was
were.
on his way to Barrie or something, so it wouldn't have been helpful. But
Cool, thanks, Erica. That was perfect. JP Hunt, John Paul Hunt.
Yes.
Something you like about real estate, something you don't like.
I'm gonna go a little sappy. It's who real estate has linked me to. over the years. So maybe it's just because I got married and a lot of good friends were there at the wedding who I directly would have never met if it wasn't for real estate. So that's really been it. Everyone in this room, it really, like, it's.
There were some
true-
people in this
true
room who
friendship.
weren't there.
I
So
know,
now
I
I
know,
know the
but
people
now
who were
it's
at your wedding are your real true friends. So I just, yeah.
True,
So that's cool. Okay. So yeah, I'm, cool. I was there for the
Yeah.
record. So yeah, we're good friends. We're good friends.
But yeah, no, truthfully, the people I met just never would have come across if it wasn't for real estate. So that's been my biggest thing I like for sure.
I don't think that's happy. That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things I hate, most problems could probably be rectified if people would just think outside the box a little bit. Whether you're dealing with another realtor, dealing with an issue with a house, maybe a home inspection that didn't go maybe as good as you hoped, things could probably get figured out if people just would have. A lot of people are just black and white thinking, and if you just think a little bit outside the box, probably get make things a lot easier and get things done.
So it's frustrating
quicker.
to you when people just focus on the problem and don't think about the solution.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
That's exactly it.
Cool. Story?
Story. I had a member who had a student rental, and he was looking to get more income out of it. So one thing he did do was put in coin laundry, which a lot of people have done. But then he also went out, and I don't know where he found it, but he bought a vending machine for chocolate bars and stuff like that. He started making $75 a month extra out of the student rental from literally charging $1 for chocolate bars and chips.
This is one residential student
Yes.
rental?
And
He put the vending machine on the porch or inside
in the
the-
basement? Put it in the basement, and because literally it
No
was
way.
the convenience, he was charging $1, whatever you charge in a vending machine, $1.50 for a chocolate bar. He was making $75 a month. He still is.
So then he
doing
goes
that.
every month and restocks
Yeah,
this
because he
machine?
was going every month anyway to collect the coin out of the coin laundry
God, I
machine.
love
So now
this guy.
he goes to
first I
This
heard
is
Costco.
that.
great.
I know he goes.
I
to
just
Costco
thought
and he
about those
buys
little
chocolate
machines
bars.
with the jelly beans that you put in like the quarters,
Yeah.
you know, you put those in your student rentals.
Because the students will just walk downstairs and buy a chocolate bar instead of going to the store. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a great one.
Their
Everyone
friends
ju-
might come. The neighbors might come over and start
I know.
buying stuff.
Who
You
knows?
should put a
No,
sign
that's
on
why-
the lawn. You should have a,
that's why I was thinking
a
maybe you
direct
just put it on the
entrance to the
porch. So the
Or
public
tribute,
walking
put it
by,
outside on the
yeah.
front lawn.
But
Nice,
yeah.
JP. Thank you. Sandra is up next, and Sandra is going. Yeah, so Sandra, I don't want to say your last name.
Milovanovic.
Thank you. So Sandra, a positive, a negative, and a story.
Okay. Positive is now I'm going to go out and look for vending machines for my
Yeah,
house.
yeah. We all are.
So I guess positive would be, so I came from the corporate world. So the positive on this side is the fact that I love the lifestyle that it gives me. I get to see my kids go to school every day. Most days I'm there when they get dropped off at the bus. At the age of 49, my husband, at the age of 49, decided to quit his full-time job, and we put him through engineering for 3 years. And then I decided to have babies. And then so the lifestyle of it was the fact that I got to spend 2 to 3 years with my kids that most people don't get to without being in debt.
Cool.
Negative, I guess negative would be in real estate that I've learned that no one told me before is that you need to have magnificent bladder control and lots of snacks.
And
in
why
the
is
car.
that? Because you're driving around from property to property?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to property to property.
Yeah, got it. Okay, never thought about that negative, but good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you end up knowing the places where you're going to stop to use them. I
Exactly.
don't know about you, but I know
Yep.
certain places have clean washrooms. So I'm like, okay, I can park in there. Anyway.
Exactly. Or when you're showing houses, like, okay, this is the one we're going to stop at. Don't use this one. Check the water if it's on, kind of thing. A story, I guess you've always said it's not timing the market, but it's time in the market. And one of my stories is just this weekend, I refinanced 2 properties and I pulled out that money and I made that lifestyle jump that I was talking about, and I put an offer on a beachfront property. So we'll see how that goes.
Awesome. That's a great story. Yeah, so cool. Cool. Thank you, Sandra. Nadim Ahmed is up next. Nadim, whoa, you came in charging to that mic pretty strong. So Nadim, a positive, a negative, and a story.
Positive is it's a different experience for me from where I am. I was in a different world for like 15, 16 years, running my own retail business and different environment. Never thought I would do real estate. Thanks to Mike, I'm here.
Because I
Very
guess
good.
in a retail environment, you were in the store every
in
day.
the store, different hours. Yeah, just different lifestyle, completely different. But yeah, I'm here helping other people make money besides myself. So that's the positive. Negative would be Saturday morning drives, being stuck in traffic, going to St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, going to Barrie. That's the double the time. That's probably the negative for me. Yeah, everything else is good.
It would be nice if all the properties were all close together as an investor or helping investors, if we didn't all have to drive right across Ontario to do this. Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and the good story that I have is like one of my members. He's been working with me for about 5 years. When I met him, he said he's closing on a retirement, and he wanted to build his life for his retirement. And he's bought over a dozen properties, set himself up nicely for retirement, and that's probably the positive.
Very cool. So he was able to qualify. Does he have partners to do that? Because a dozen properties, that's a lot of properties.
Yeah, he's done it with his family.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, with his children.
Awesome. Nadim, I just thought of something. As an investor, you should start Nadim's helicopter tours where you can get on in Mississauga to go look at properties in Niagara, and you just fly people over. No one's going to pay for that, but the idea is really great. Cool. Thanks, Nadim. Bernie Fraser is up next. So in a past life, Bernie and I used to work at the same place at NetSuite. We never really crossed paths because we would sell the software at the front. And then when they got the software and it couldn't do what we told them it was going to do, Bernie's team would handle the tech support on the back end. It was a beautiful relationship.
On the back end, yes. And we did cross paths a couple
We
times.
did. Yeah.
You were begging me for some sort of help, I recall.
Yeah, I think it was politely convincing you and persuading you with my massive negotiation skills.
Probably
That was
worked. So on the positive side, I was actually the last two stories would definitely have been it, but an extension of the family thing. My kids are much older, and they both still live at home, and we still get to spend a lot of quality time together, which there was no way I would be able to because of the hours they keep versus the hours I would be keeping in my old rat race job. So the family thing, but the joy for me, I get some sort of joy out of weekday traffic when I'm heading out of the GTA and there is just a single line not moving coming in.
That's a good point. Nadim, to your point, yeah, we all get to choose our hours when we drive too.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a great thing.
That is, I
just need to jump on this, Bernie. I used to drive to NetSuite. I'm saying this because I used to work at NetSuite with you. I used to live in Oakville, drive to NetSuite, and I was in the bumper to bumper traffic.
Yep.
But Nick and I already owned properties in Hamilton, and there was no traffic going that way on the 403. And I always remember thinking, why am I driving this way in traffic when all the money is that way?
Yeah.
You know, I just thought it was totally the wrong move. So yeah, I can totally relate. Yeah.
So for me, that's on a daily basis. I'm smiling just looking at those poor souls coming into the corporate world. The negative side for me, the listing paperwork. I don't understand.
We're all investors at heart. Nobody
My
likes
wife
the
helps
action.
me a lot with this. I just do not understand why it's so complicated, and the fact that I have not been able to automate it frustrates the heck out of me.
Yeah. I can totally see that.
So-
Okay, and a story.
So I'll go with a negative one, I guess. One of my first properties, we were doing a rent to own, and we had a family in. They were international students going to Mohawk, and the parents wanted to buy the property, and they wanted to do a rent to own. They had just moved in. They've been renting in Hamilton for maybe 6 months. I discussed the rent to own with them. I actually turned them away because I didn't feel they were going to be a good fit. And it was actually the girls that came. They were students going to Mohawk. They came back a couple of days later with their father. Nope, this is what we want to do. I've got money coming. It's going to take me 2 years to get my money, and we're going to buy the house. Here's a down payment. We're doing it. So they actually were doing the rent to own. They were great tenants. And then about 2 years in, Berta, my wife, gets a call from one of the girls and says, I'm sorry, the house just isn't big enough for us anymore. So it was a 4-bedroom townhouse, big yard, big house. And she's going, okay, well, there was 4 of you there, so what's the problem? Well, my dad brought his other wife over, 4 other kids, and in the last 2 years, my mom had 2 other kids. So there was 11 people living in this house.
Boy.
And it obviously wasn't big enough. And one of the rules that I used to break on a regular basis was I don't tell your clients that you got to go to the property. I wasn't going to the property. It was a hellhole. It started out beautiful. It needed a lot of work. So they ended up moving out. On the positive side, it was during the time when we bought really low in Hamilton and the prices were peaking and competitive offers. So we sold it. But it was kind of unfortunate culturally.
Did you renovate that before you sold it?
Yeah, we put
Okay.
in like 10, 20
So it's
grand
still
in it.
profitable at
Yeah,
the end?
Yeah, it was very profitable in the end, but
Cool.
just interesting on how quickly
So the
families
lesson
can grow.
is go buy your properties. When you tell other investors to go buy their properties, you yourself should go buy the properties as well.
Yes, yes.
Cool. Thank you, Bernie. Leslie Kitchen. So Leslie, if you're listening to this, Leslie started working with us when nobody should have started working with us. She trusted us and believed us. Nick and I needed help. And Leslie heard what we were doing and thought, that seems like such a good idea when no one else was working with us, and jumped on to start working with us. So we are forever grateful, Leslie.
Okay, I'm forever grateful.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads into what I was going to say. One of the things I love most about real estate is working with people that are up to something. And so not only did I get to work with you and Nick and Tom that were up to something, but I got to work with these amazing investors who wanted to create something for themselves in their life, and I get to work with them. And, it's just all the adventures that we get to go on. Like some of the, I've been locked in a house and not being able to get out when we were showing property. And don't ask me how that happened. But
I would just like to see
it was
Leslie locked in a house.
pretty scary. And then there was times when I've been locked out of a house in the pouring rain, and I've stepped in dog dirt, and I have to figure out how to get back in the house where my keys in
Is
my car.
dog dirt
there.
a nice way of saying dog shit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just want to be
And
clear.
it's really mushy because it's raining.
We don't need the visual. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so those are, I guess that's one of the stories. What I don't like, so I like a lot of things about real estate, the financial side, which has already been covered, but just working with some amazing people and seeing them fulfill on their dreams. And that's so rewarding for me. Like, you can't get anything like I get. Even today when you were in the meeting sharing your new office and how it was laid out, I started feeling
It's not our new, it's our new office.
Yeah, but our new office. But, I started feeling tears come into my eyes because I'm thinking, oh my God, it went from the closet to this office.
Yeah.
And, and I've been
It's
part
true.
of all that and got to see that and be contributing to that. And that's, to me, really rewarding. Yeah. So, what do I?
The negative.
Oh, the negative. I would say the theme is people who lie.
I have to say, your body demeanor when you just said the negative just changed so much. You went from having goosebumps and smiling to the negative. You started frowning. I'm like, "Whoa, this is here."
That
but
is
yeah,
a negative.
people. So
like
people who
either
lie.
whether it's a tenant who lies, or even a contractor, like especially contractors who mislead or lie. Anybody who's just tell me the way it is and be straightforward, and and that works for me. And so I guess that's the only thing is that when we
Liars.
because we run into people like that, right? When we're out there in the field, and that always to me is kind of this tailspin.
And a story.
Story. So many stories. I told one about the adventures of being locked in and locked out. A member story. So one of the things is, I think one of the stories that I've always loved is being able to helping some of the families into the rent to own and actually having them fulfill on it, and working with people that have done that. So, one of the ones was a family who, they were up in Barrie, so he was a funeral director, and he had the big house, the Porsche, lovely lifestyle, and he lost it all when he got into a divorce and then bought another property. But when he was settling, there was a debt that wasn't looked after. So it ended up, his financial advisor told him to go bankrupt, which he did. And then we got to work with him and find him a property. And I created a 5-year rent to own because I knew it would never happen in 3 years. And he was able to fulfill on that and purchase the property 5 years later. I hear from the investor who actually I partnered them up with. And, it just really, that's great. Like, it's really awesome that the investor won. They were so happy. They never had to deal with the property. It was well looked after. And then the tenant buyer was happy and they bought the property.
Cool. You've always been the master at putting win-win situations together. You really have.
Yeah.
So cool. Thanks, Leslie. All right, Sonia Sky, something you like, something you don't like, and a story.
So one thing I really like about working with investors is sometimes their first time, people are nervous about buying a property. But when I'm able to share my story and tell them that, how nervous that I was and what I was able to achieve, and then when I see them buy their first property and it is a success and they're happy and they're getting the money, they're like, okay, when do we go buy the next one? They're excited about it. And
Sonia, I'm going to let you off with this story, but this is what I think JP used on, people. So yeah, we're repeating a positive story. We're going to let you off because we are nice people. But Mike DeZormo's next, and we're not going to let Mike DeZormo off on. Okay, so that's a positive, and you're right, absolutely. And a negative?
So a negative, I would say, is multiple offers.
From an investor point of view, or when you're helping an investor from the...
When I'm helping an investor, because if we lose the deal, then everyone's upset. But sometimes when we actually get the property in a multiple offer, then the question is, did we spend too much this time? Could we have gone in a bit lower? Which is always a question that people seem to be a little bit concerned about. But in the end, as long as they have a great property and they see that they're getting money off of it, then they're happy about it. It's just in that initial moment you start questioning things sometimes.
A story?
So a story I'd have to say is I have a couple, and their goal was to buy 3 properties, which they did, which was great. And I was able to work with them not only to get the 3 properties, but they also wanted this goal about retirement. And we came up with the idea of renting their basement, and the husband was all for it and the wife wasn't. So after showing her the numbers and what things could look like and how much sooner they can get to their retirement in Costa Rica, she changed her mind about it. And last week she sent me a video where she renovated the basement and was so excited and showed me and had to show me the video of how good it looked, and was so happy that she found a great tenant for it. So they're well on their way.
Cool. Thanks, Sonia. All right, Mike.
Awesome.
Positive,
Okay.
negative.
Well, what I like about real estate is that I find it's the most forgiving business that I know of. Real estate, if you're an investor, it doesn't matter if you're a single mom, if what color you are, what age you are, if you're new to the country. The years show what the days can't. We've seen investors. We had Dan and Laura Illman the other day, where Dan had a fear of talking to people, and I was at his very first showing, maybe his second showing actually, where he told me he had this fear, and I see him push through it. And now these are people that the gentleman had a fear of talking to people, but now there's multiple millions of dollars of equity in this couple's life and their children's life. By just pushing through that. I don't know of any other business where somebody could survive with that type of fear.
Cool.
That's first and foremost. What I don't like, the maintenance calls. There's one particular property that I have. If I get a phone call or a text message and I see that property, my butt cheeks always squeeze together. And I'm like, here we go. From Mike, there's centipedes in the basement or spiders.
Centipedes.
The front porch lights out. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So back in the day, I would do I'm sure all of us have gone through it. In the beginning, when you first start off, you go out and you do all these repairs yourself. As these properties spit off more and more cash, I call it, when that phone call happens, here comes my shit sandwich. But with the shit sandwich, the more bread you have, the less shit you eat. So,
That's awesome.
And then story.
Because the more bread you have, you can hire.
You can hire.
Or just
Yeah.
feels bad. Or
Okay, you got spiders
hires,
now.
Or you just
instead
look
of-
at the equity in the properties and you're like, I'll eat that shit because it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The other day it was freaking hot water tank leak, fried the circuit board to the furnace, and we're in the we're in a bit of a heat wave. So then now the furnace is not, the AC is not kicking in, right? So before I'd be like cringing, I got to call the furnace guy out, but now it's like, okay, it's going to be a couple $100, not such a big deal.
Because
But
the
in
more bread
beginning,
you have, the less shit you eat.
Yep. And then story goes back to Andrew Palhitas back in the day when Andrew started off as an investor.
That was going to be mine.
Gotcha.
Continue story.
That's it.
No.
We're working with some tenant buyers. We're at our last house. It's in Brampton. It's about 9:00 at night. It's a summer's night. We just finished going through the house. We're standing in the driveway. It's a young couple with, I believe, a daughter, I think,
it's a
right?
newborn, yeah.
Yeah, and we're sitting there talking to them, and they're saying, okay, we like this house. So these were tenant buyers who were helping find a home, and Andrew was going to be their investor who was going to buy the home for them and do the rent-to-own program. As we're there talking about, okay, well, we're going to have to do the offer right away. A car goes down the street, smokes another car, parked car on the side of the road. and we see this mirror go bouncing down the road, sparking as it bounces away. And the tenants say, "That's our car." Andrew and I, without even saying anything to one another, Andrew bolts after the car on foot. I jump into my car. I'm racing down the street. Andrew's cutting through neighbors' grasses and whatnot. I get around the corner. Andrew's on the front
Why
hood
do
of
I
this
feel like
guy's
Andrew
car.
was doing that because he's done that before?
Yeah.
I was in better shape back then.
He's on the front hood. Yeah, the car's parked. I parked my car sideways. I bought a brand new Lexus. I don't know what I was thinking because the guy's either going forward or backwards. He's only got two directions to go. Anyways, the guy in the car is revving the car. And I'm like, Andrew, just let the guy go. Let the guy go. I got his plate. I'll chase this guy down. I was already on the phone with 911. Andrew backs away. The guy pulls up 4 houses and pulls into the driveway. So I get out of the car. I'm like, what are you doing? Because you know what? That could have been the family. That could have been one of us. That could have been one of the little kids. But the guy, it was basically a hit and run. So cops come. There was a helicopter that went down in Brampton apparently that day. So we were waiting forever for the police to come. Police finally come. Guy gets arrested. Andrew and I actually had to go to court for this case. But I remember while the police were there, Andrew was like, "Well, they really like the house. How do I segue this?" I'm like,
These were the tenants who were looking
These
at
were
the
the tenants,
property?
yeah. So I'm like, "Well, you got to ask for the down payment." I think it was like $10,000. And lo and behold, Andrew walks away, talks to them, and I think he was counting like 10 grand in cash on the hood of a car or something
On the
like
hood
that.
of their smashed up car.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, on the hood of the
On
car
the
that was
hood-
smashed?
On the hood
Oh
of
my
their smashed
gosh.
up car, yeah.
Cool. Thank you. And Mike, I didn't say Mike DeZormo. I didn't say your last name when you spoke, but thank you. All right, Paul DeBruzzo, let's hear your story. No, positive and negative first. Sorry.
Positive and negative. A positive about real estate. I guess there's, after almost 10 years doing this, there's really no cap there's no cap in where you can do in real estate. So I started out doing rental properties, and I've done some larger multifamily and commercial properties, and we're building some small subdivisions now, and there's so many different things you can do, and you're never really bored if you don't want to be. And some of the things I don't like, I don't know.
You don't know because the list is so long, or
list
you
is
don't
so
have
long,
any?
I'm trying to pick the right one. No,
Because I know there's things that you don't like in real estate because you
yeah.
tell everyone about the things you don't like in real estate.
I don't like some of the lack of professionalism in our industry. I know that's a big one, but not all professionals are created equal. And I think we're lucky to be in a group like this where we all kind of treat it seriously and we really care about the success of our members and investors.
I think that's what makes it frustrating because you're trying to help an investor and you're working hard to help that investor. Then you bump into another professional in the industry who's making your life difficult. And it's frustrating because you're trying to explain it to the investor what you're trying to do and you're getting roadblocked by somebody else. So yeah, I get it.
It's painting a grim picture, but it's not everyone, but it's one person just colors us all black and blue if there's no kind of respect for the profession. But,
so for your story, do you want to share an example of that, or you want to share something else?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna pick on Mike since he picked on Andrew. So one of our, I don't know, it was our second or third property. Mike was helping us with a student rental in Hamilton, and we had gotten the deal done. It was accepted and then sent to the mortgage broker, and financing qualified. And then just before closing, I get a call from my lawyer. It was Jerry at the time, and Jerry Gatto, good guy, and he says, "Hey Paul, we're $2,000 short." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, we're just $2,000 short somehow." So we tracked this all back, and it turns out somehow instead of the final accepted offer getting submitted, the last counter offer was submitted that was $2,000 less than the actual purchase price. So Dave Butler at the mortgage office has processed the mortgage like that, and went to the lawyer, and all that stuff went through, and we were $2,000 short when the buyer's lawyer and the seller's lawyer communicated with each other. So I had to kind of come up with it in cash, and it wasn't Mike's fault. I'm just picking on him for no reason. It was just
I can see you staring him down. You're standing right above him right now.
He's not looking at me for reason. It was just some clerical error, but it turns out we had to come up with the money. I was much younger at the time, and I didn't even know where I was going to find that $2,000, but it was interesting. But I still have that property today, and you know, knowing what I know now, I would have paid an extra $10,000 to keep that property because it was definitely a good one. So
because how old were you that? But you were like 23 or 24 at that time.
24. Yeah.
Where did you find the extra $2,000? Some Visa card? You took a cash advance or something?
He can't say it.
Okay. We can't. Oh, we can't say it. All right.
Marijuana wasn't legal at the
Yeah,
time.
we can't say. Yeah. All right. Cool. Thank you, Paul DeBruzzo. Thank you. Who's going next? Andrew. Nick.
Yeah, I'll go.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so something I like. I'm trying to figure out what everyone said.
We allowed some repeats through this process.
I think I like. I don't know. It's not like. Here, I'll tell you. I'll give you the story, and then I'll explain. That's what I like. So there's been times when you go down to fill. You know when you fill like multiple properties in a day, and you sign the leases, and then you're driving home, and you're just like, holy crap, man! Like I just signed like. You know, whatever the maybe it's like not quite 100, but depending on the rent, it's close to like $100,000 worth of income for this year in these leases. Like that's a big income day. You know what I mean? Like I know the income's going to come over time and there's expenses and stuff like that, but I'm like, man, I just like I just signed agreements for $100,000, and like that's a big thing. I don't know what the average income in Canada is, but it's well below that. And again, I know it's a business and there's expenses, but I'm like, man, those are good feelings. Those days when you're like in the trenches and you're kind of pulling those things off, you're like, yeah, that's kind of cool. You know, that's the plus side. The stuff I don't like is it's really the length of time that it takes to make money in real estate. It'd be nice if it happened like every week these days. You know what I mean?
It's frustrating.
Yeah,
right?
like the get rich quick stuff. Like I'm still looking for, like, I know there's a lot of people that come into this office and they're like, hey, this all sounds good, but like, you know, I heard about this way that you could do it like this and you can make millions overnight, not getting off your butt, not doing anything. I'm like, yeah, I want that too. Like, tell me, you know, let me know how it works because I want to do that too. So, yeah, I wish it was a little bit faster. But someone said earlier, I think it was you, about just how much the time, like when you're, someone said about time in the market, but it was just how like just when you spend time in the thing, you know, you can refinance properties. Like the benefits are enormous. I just wish that happened more regularly, more quickly. Like every 6 months, if that could happen, that'd be nice. And the story, I don't know what I can and can't share. There's some stories from like our Christmas parties I was going to share. Then I was like,
yeah, do not share those
can't
stories.
Share those ones. Right. And then there was Mike celebrating that one time in the office when he decided to like, there's the fish story, which probably shouldn't share that one either. I don't know. So we'll
don't share the time where he ate the fish. You don't want to share that story.
We'll go back to, I'll go back to an investor story. We were renovating, students had moved out. It was time for them to move out. They moved out of a property. We were renovating the basement. We were going to kind of redo it. So we went in, and this one guy left so much of his stuff there. Like, I couldn't believe how much of his stuff he left there. Like, whatever, let's go, get the basement. So we got everything. We threw it all out in the dumpster. We filled up the dumpster. It came like the next day or something. This guy emails, I guess a couple of days later, he went back to the house. The basement was gutted. He's like, hey, I went back for all my stuff. I was like, oh, sorry, man. We threw it all out. And he had some signed Oilers jersey. I forget who it was signed by. He's like, I don't care about the rest of my stuff. Can I just have my jersey back? I'm like, sorry, man. It's like in the dumpster and it's gone.
We're Leaf fans.
So
that's gone.
So we literally threw it. I kind of felt bad because there was a student staying in Hamilton. I didn't know, but we gave him the heads up, proper notice, all that stuff. And he never told us that he was like leaving his stuff. So we just, we threw out all his stuff. We just chucked it all. So I kind of felt bad for the guy. That's the watered down version of the story I'm going to share.
Cool. Andrew Palhidas.
The dumpster was...
Yeah, did you not go in the dumpster? And
the dumpster was gone. We got someone to already replace it. So it was long gone. Yeah, all his stuff was gone. It was literally thousands of dollars worth of stuff. And you know, when you're a student, man, that stuff is like, that's...
And Nick and I are usually
done.
about getting things done. So it's like, hey, you left all the crap, especially Nick. He's like, we got the box there. We're dumping everything out. It's gone, right? It doesn't take long.
Yeah. But we didn't know. He didn't have an email. I just assumed that because students often leave stuff in the thing. I'm like, this guy just left way more than usual, right? So...
Andrew Palhidas.
All right. I can't repeat anybody's stuff now.
No.
My like on real estate is going to be that it's not just the money, like JP said, but it's the fact that the equity builds and you can't touch it. So it's almost like you can't spend your money even if you wanted to, and you just constantly have this equity building, the mortgage is being paid down, the appreciation's happening. And then when you need it, you can refinance. So I like that about investing, is that at any moment you can tap into the equity in any one of your properties, similar to what Sandra just said she did, and pull that equity out and buy more properties. So I like that you can't spend it. Dislikes, nothing. I like everything. I even like there's
and
evictions.
I believe that. Andrew enjoys the pain.
Evictions and landlord-tenant board. I don't know. I just love it. I always have. It's amusing to me.
You have an eviction? Call Andrew Palhidas.
It's pretty entertaining to me.
There's a few actually investors that we've worked with. I'm sure everyone's got one or two that they know that like they could just start eviction services and they'd be amazing at it.
Yeah, so I honestly just love everything. And then the story, I was going to do the exact same story Mike stole from me. So I had about 2 minutes here to think of a new one. So I'm actually going to steal one of Mike's stories. When we were out looking for properties for myself, Mike was my coach. And for whatever reason, the listing agent was at this property. And I can't remember if it was a triplex or something like that. Mike's got a nervous look on his face. He doesn't remember it. And then this lady goes into the house because there's dogs there. So she, for whatever reason, these dogs chase her into like a back room or a bathroom or something like that. And so she calls or texts Mike saying she's stuck in the house. These dogs are like barking, going crazy. Mike's like...
Close.
What's that?
We were going up the stairs to the triplex. Some guys were darting down the stairs.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, don't go inside. There's a lady trapped in there.
Yes, you're right. Actually, yeah, you're right.
So it was a lady showing that house. She was trapped in the washroom, and there's two very large, medium-sized dogs that are freaking out inside the house, and this lady can't escape.
Yeah. So Mike is like, I know dogs. And I don't even know if he's just like mush or hiya or something. He starts like yelling. He goes and grabs a chair or something like that. Do you have a chair?
I went in. As soon as I
Sounds
entered,
like a lion tamer.
there was a cereal box on the counter, and the dogs had me cornered. So I reached into my hand. I grabbed the cereal. I think, were you filming? Or,
I think at the time, I don't know where the footage is now.
Through the door.
I was just recording.
I was in there by myself. I remember that. I reached into the cereal box. I grabbed the cereal and I threw it on the floor. The dogs looked down at the cereal and looked right back up at me. Like, this is not going well. So then I reached for something that was close by with some kind of big statue or something, and I lured the dogs down a narrow hall, and I only got as far as being able to get the woman out because we went down the hall. Now I was beyond the bathroom door where I told her, get out, run. She ran. But now the dogs were getting really, really vicious, and it was because I had them backed to the owner's master bedroom. So they were just trying, no owner was there, but they're protecting their owner. And then I'll let you take it from there.
So Mike comes out with this chair or something, or statue or whatever's in his hand, like a lion tamer, just yelling at these hiya or down or something, like mush, or I don't even know what you yell at a dog, but and so I was recording it at the time. Actually, that was that was a long time ago. It was like BlackBerry phones, but whatever 1 megapixel camera it was. So I just had my hand in the door trying to record it, and then so Mike came out, saved this lady's life. Probably, she may have died of starvation in there. So,
cool. Okay, so I'll go next. So a positive is I think that the success rate of small businesses in Canada, you know how you always hear those stats like new businesses fail like 90 some odd %. I consider real estate income properties as small businesses in a box. And the success rate of it is almost guaranteed. To Mike, to your point, to the investor who was really nervous speaking with people, but then he goes on to build multiple millions of dollars in equity. I feel like it's the best little plan B side business you can have because it almost guarantees success. You buy the thing, you put some tenants in it, you deal with the crap, you hold on to it for longer than 5, even 10 years, and you're going to win. So I love that about real estate. The negative on it, I feel like it's a mirror to your character. And what I mean by that is when something goes wrong with a property and you don't feel like dealing with it, it's to me, Nick and I have always had this thing where there a tenant's complaining about something and I don't want to deal with it. He doesn't want to deal with it. And when that happens, we know we have to deal with it because it's something we're scared to deal with. So we know one of us has to then step up and deal with it to overcome that fear of dealing with a parent if it's a student rental, dealing with a flood in the basement if we just don't have the time to deal with the contractors. So it's kind of like a mirror on us, on the state of where we are, and not just from our own properties, but also dealing with investors. Because when you deal with investors and you tell them, hey, you're going to get this rental property and you're going to get this much in rent. And then if you don't get that much in rent, I'm going to come to the property and I'm going to help you find a tenant. And when you get those phone calls with a tenant struggling, an investor struggling on a property, and you've told them they're going to achieve something, and now you have to live up to your word, I feel like that's a really special moment because that's another time where it's like, I don't want to deal with something, but I told them this was going to happen, and they're not able to achieve it, so now I have to go to the property and make it happen. And I feel like that's just another moment where it's like a mirror on myself, and it's an opportunity for me to grow. And then the story that I'll share is right when Nick and I started, we both quit our jobs, and at that time we didn't have that many investors that we were dealing with, and we had this one investor from British Columbia call and say, hey, I heard Hamilton's really good. I want to buy a property in Hamilton. We're like, absolutely, Hamilton's a great area. We sell this guy a property, and he's like, how much am I going to get in rent? And I told him the amount. He's like, well, you know what? I'm going to have to go higher because I'm doing like zero money down. Like he was borrowing money. There was interest on the money he was borrowing. He was buying this property. So he had to get like higher than we normally get on this particular property. And I'm like, you know what? You'll get it. And we sell this guy this property. And I committed to finding the tenant. And we sell this guy's property. It closes in the middle of winter. It's a snowstorm the first day we're showing it. And he's on me. He's like, hey, we have to close. We have to find a tenant. I have no money to carry this property. You got to find a tenant like right away. And I'm like, why did I commit to this? But it's a snowstorm. We have all the leads lined up. And everybody starts calling saying, hey, are you guys going to be there? Because it's a snowstorm. And we're like, yep, we're going to be there. And we drove from Oakville to Hamilton in like a death-defying snowstorm. And we get there, and there are tenants lined up in their cars on the street. And the street has so much snow, it's like single file. So we're kind of fighting through there. We get there. I get out of the car, and the snow in front of this house, Nick, I don't know, how deep was that snow? I feel like it was 1.5 feet.
It was deep. Yeah, it was like a full-on storm.
It was really deep. And Nick looks at the house, and it was so deep at some parts because there were snow drifts that you couldn't even walk to the front door. And Nick looks at this thing, and he just has. If you ever see Nick get serious, he just gets this look. Is like, not a problem. And we pop the trunk, and he starts shoveling like a human snowblower. And I just look over to the side, and there's snow like flying like 10 feet in the air, and he's carving like a path to the door. And the tenants are like, oh my gosh, this is great. We didn't think we would be able to make it to the front door. We can see the property. And right then I check my pockets, and I realized I forgot the keys. So we drove I made this commitment to this guy that we were going to fill his property. We drive in a snowstorm to Hamilton. Nick is human snowblower. Tenants have driven through the snow to see this property. They're all excited. And we weren't even able to break into that one or anything.
No, you took people up. Some people came back because you took them up to the front and we used a flashlight to start looking through a couple of the windows.
Yeah, we were trying to show it through the windows.
Look, it's nice. I swear, it's nice in there.
Look at the size of the family room. It's really great. Anyway, so we drove home, and I felt like an epic failure. I thought I quit my job. Nick quit his job. I can't even remember to bring the keys to a property that I'm filling for somebody from British Columbia who's depending on me. I really thought everything was going to come crashing in.
I was you on the way home. What kind of brother are you? You
yeah.
got the keys. You're the older brother. You're supposed to be responsible. What is this?
I think it was so bad that you would normally do that to me. But in this case, I think you felt actually badly for me. But so we drove home. We didn't fill it that day. But a week later, we went back. We had multiple people there. We filled the property. We got the number that I never thought we were going to get, and it was good to go. So for some reason, that stands out. And the other thing that stands out is working with everybody here. I think Nick and I feel so grateful to have crossed paths all in different ways with everyone here in their own different way, and to work with this many investors together over this. Yeah, it's been 12 years now. I mean, just the stuff that we've all been able to do as a group. We all know investors here who have made money and used it for their family in different ways, whether it's to adopt children, help their family out in a financial situation, live their own dreams, buy a vacation property. So whatever it is, I mean, the impact, as cheesy as it sounds that we're all having, that gives me personally purpose. And doing that all together with you guys and with my little brother. I mean, it really makes it all. It really makes it all worth it. So
a little stronger, smarter. There's not many little brothers that can significantly, are much stronger than their older brother. So I'll take that.
I think when you're the older brother, you're automatically stronger. Like it doesn't matter, who can lift more weight at the gym. You're just automatically stronger by default. But that's it. Thanks, everyone. Hey everyone, so hopefully you enjoyed that. And listen, if you listen to that and you want some more real estate information, you can go to with what started all of this is with a free copy of our book, Income for Life for Canadians. You can go to www.rockstarinnercircle.com/books to get that. So that's www.rockstarinnercircle.com/books. to get a free copy of that book. You can actually buy that book on Amazon. We give copies away for free. We actually have 4 books available now for free off that URL. Income for Life for Canadians is where most real estate investors who we work with have started with that particular book. So if you want some more real estate investing information, that would be a great place to start. Also on that website are different reports that we have and different access to classes that you can book to come out and check us out and get to meet us and talk real estate and get your questions answered. So it's all there at rockstarinnercircle.com. And if you want a copy of the book, you can go to rockstarinnercircle.com/books. with that, until next time, your life, your terms.